Hey, welcome back, Facebook family. This is James Burnett again at the Boston Foundation. Apologies, but I'm telling you, those exploding Samsung batteries, what can you do? I'm kidding. I don't have a Samsung, so please don't sue me. I'm here with Allyson Esposito, our Director of Arts and Culture, and we were talking a few minutes ago about Live Arts Boston before the camera died. So we're going to try this again. Allyson, thanks for joining us
Yay!
again.
Thanks for sticking with us. Okay, so where I left off, I was talking about getting $15,000 as an artist, as a small organization with a budget under $250,000, or as a group or collaborative to make, produce, or present within the performing arts realm. And here's the disciplines that we're serving with this program. We're doing dance, theater, spoken word, performance art, circus arts, certain kinds of music, I'll talk about that in a second, and any multidisciplinary combination of these. We're hoping to get a whole bunch of applications. We have a wonderful bucket of money to spend on this program, and we'll be able to make at least, we think, 50 to 75 grants. So please tell your friends. Within the music realm, we've done a bunch of digging and data analysis to figure out where this program should really be and who it should be serving, with an eye towards reaching folks that haven't had access to funding in Boston, or to a lot of funding in Boston. And classical music, European classical music specifically, is an area where there has been a bunch of support in Boston, of course, because we have a wonderful, robust classical music scene. So within the music discipline, if you want to apply, we're looking for projects that are really featuring the following subdisciplines: new music of any kind, including new contemporary classical and contemporary chamber music post-1960 is really what we're looking for there. Experimental, avant-garde, jazz, folk, popular, rock, blues, jazz, global or world, any of those subdisciplines of music will be just fine. So let's talk a little bit more about the guidelines. What do you need to be? What do you need to do in order to apply? So the project needs to be one singular idea that you really present in an application from soup to nuts. It can be a number of connected activities, but there has to be one overarching theme or idea or thing that you want to explore, or artistic idea that you're into. It can be several different educational components tied to a larger performance. It can be a lot of process with several different things going on, but one idea is really what we're looking for, not the sum total of all the things that you're doing within 2017. There has to be a public performance of some kind during the grant year. So during 2017, we want you to share this work with Greater Boston. And when we at the Boston Foundation talk about Greater Boston, we're talking about everything in our catchment area. You can look on our website. We have a list of all the cities, towns, municipalities that includes. There's a whole bunch of them, really almost 40, that I don't want to list right now. But it's everything pretty much within 495 that we consider Greater Boston. So we want you to share this work during 2017 with Greater Boston in some way. It doesn't have to be a big formal presentation. It can be a works in progress showing. It can be a rehearsal that's open to the public. But we do need you to show that in some way, or share your work with the folks that live here. It can be ticketed or free, super open. You can use these funds for touring and travel. We want to encourage Boston groups and Boston artists to get out of Boston and to share their work with audiences everywhere. But just know that there still has to be that Greater Boston public performance requirement in order to be eligible for the funds. If you're a presenter or a producer and you're hoping to incorporate a whole bunch of artists into a festival or some kind of a shared show of some kind, very cool. We ask that 50% of the artists, at least 50% of the artists that you are including or you're presenting or producing, are from Greater Boston. Again, that within 495 area to be eligible to apply. Know that you can apply for these funds if you're eligible for up to 3 years and receive funding for 3 years before being asked to take a year off. So really think about where you're at as an organization, where you're at as an artist in your career, where you're at as a group, where you want to go, what's the thing that you really want to achieve in 2017, 2018, 2019. You don't necessarily have to put that in the application at this point, but to think that through will be helpful. We have really specific funding priorities for this program, and these are again based on things that we are not seeing supported enough here, that we really want to try and elevate and give some love to. So there are 4, and you don't have to do all of these things, but if your project fits within or is one of these things, these are what grant reviewers will be looking for within our application pool. So the first is new work. We want to support the creation of new work. The way that we're defining that is original or interpretive work or projects that have not been previously presented to a general audience in Greater Boston. So think about that. That is something we're really excited about. We want to push people and give people funds to do that. Secondly, culturally specific work. Those that are creating, producing, or presenting culturally specific work that upholds cultural traditions or provides opportunities to share these cultural traditions with Boston. We want to see a whole bunch of work in this space. Thirdly, new and unique and interesting collaborations. Maybe they're interdisciplinary. Maybe you're a dance artist and you've never worked with a live musician before. Maybe you're a theater artist and you've never worked with a dance artist. These are the kinds of things we want to encourage. We're trying to break down the silos that we're perceiving exist here a little bit, and get folks to really play together. So if it's a first-time collaboration, especially if it's interdisciplinary, that's something that will be prioritized. And finally, we're calling it risk-taking and innovation, which I know are super overused and underdefined words, but what we mean here is, in the application, you as an organization or an artist are saying, this is who I am, this is who we are, this is where we want to go, this is the kind of work that we do usually, and this particular project represents us pushing ourselves or myself out of my comfort zone. Usually we perform in a proscenium theater. We want to go out to the street for the first time and perform in a parking space. Usually we don't collaborate interdisciplinarily. We want to do that for the first time. Usually I make work alone. I want to collaborate with 4 other folks within my discipline, things like that. So I'm going to sort of break down who's eligible by group. So starting with artists, to be eligible, you got to live within 495, you have to be 18, can't be an undergraduate student, you can be a graduate student, but you can't be applying for a project that you're doing as part of your graduate studies. We're trying to provide support where there isn't any. You can be at any career level, but you have to have 1 year of public presentation history. So we want you to have been working as a professional for about a year to be able to apply. And in terms of that professional thing, we're not looking at how much money you're making through this line of work. It's okay if you have another job. We know you have to eat. But we really are looking at the level of commitment to this work, which will be seen through your resume and through the way that you talk about your work in your artist statement. Are you really dedicated? For collaborations, so we're accepting applications from groups of folks that work together in an informal way. So you don't necessarily have to be an organization. You can be a band, you can be an ensemble, you can be anything like that, a group of collaborators that work together frequently. We're defining a collaborator to be someone who is considered a co-owner of the project and a generative part of the team. So here's what we mean. If you're a dancer choreographer and you have a wonderful idea for a new piece of dance you want to make, and you're going to hire a whole bunch of dancers, you're going to hire a lighting designer, you're going to hire a costume designer. Those are really all independent contractors because you yourself, as the choreographer, are really driving the vision. You're in charge of everything. You're hiring these folks. You're paying these folks, hopefully. And so you should just be applying alone. However, if you as a choreographer are partnering with another choreographer and you're going to share really the vision, the idea, the theme, you should apply together as collaborators, creating this work together, thinking about it, making all the choices together, that sort of thing. Therefore, in the application, we'll want to hear a little bit about each of you, though you should know that one member of the group, ensemble, collaborative, band needs to act as the primary applicant because we need to give a human the money. So definitely think about that. We have a bunch of information for artists and collaboratives about fiscal sponsorship on our website. I'm not going to talk about it too much here because I'm afraid I'll lose watchers, but I would just say know that there are tax consequences. This is taxable income if you're a human being and you're receiving funds from the Boston Foundation. There are lots of ways around this, but if you are considering applying as an artist, you don't have to get a fiscal sponsor. It is one way to think about the money going to a nonprofit, the nonprofit giving you the money, and being able to avoid tax liability or having to pay taxes on this money. If you have questions, please see our website. We have a whole bunch more information on that there. Finally, if you're a nonprofit 501c3, we're targeting the smallest end of the ecosystem, which we're excited about. So you have to have had a budget of $250,000 or less during your most recently completed fiscal year. Even if it's a weird anomaly of a year, you did a capital campaign, you got a huge gift, we ask you hold off a year until you can really fit within that particular guideline or criteria. You have to be incorporated in the state of Massachusetts. You have to have a business address within our catchment area, 495. And you can't have received funding from the arts and culture portfolio of the Boston Foundation. There are lots of ways you can receive support here. If you've received support from a donor or through other funds, that's generally okay. If this pertains to you, I would suggest calling us up before you decide whether or not to apply. So I'm just going to talk through some pain points. What you need to apply in general is, for artists, proof of residency; for organizations, your IRS documentation that shows you're a nonprofit incorporated in the state of Massachusetts. There's a narrative. This is really the story, the meat of the application. What are your goals for this work? What are you thinking about? What are your themes? What's the process? And here I want to say, we really are welcoming process. It's okay if the idea shifts and morphs. If you're planning to spend a lot of time in 2017 working out the kinks, apply with as much specificity as you can about what you think this is going to look like, what the final product will be, where you're going to show it, who the audience is that you want to reach, all that stuff. But know that we recognize process and we know that things shift and change, and it's okay. We're not going to penalize you for shifting and changing as you work through the kinks next year. Put as much detail into the narrative section as you can. In terms of audience, I've been getting a bunch of questions. Does it behoove us to really work within a particular underserved community or with a particular population? For this application, no. We're really here just talking about supporting artists and small organizations to make stuff. So if you know that you serve a particular audience, that's awesome, and we want to hear about it. If you serve a general audience, it would be really helpful for you to put in your application the ways in which you get general audience members to get in there and put their butts in seats for the most part. That actually strengthens the application. But know that you don't have to be hitting or targeting a very specific audience of any kind to be eligible or to receive funding through this program. You have to create an artist statement if you're applying as a collaborative or an individual artist, which really talks about who you are, and just some tips on this. I get a lot of questions on this. Don't overthink it. Try to use simple language. This entire grant program will be reviewed by a panel, an external panel of your peers, of artists, of art stakeholders, of arts administrators that care about this work, but they'll be multidisciplinary in the performing arts. So try to use language that a general arts stakeholder could understand. Don't go too deep in the weeds. Keep it pretty high level, but give enough specificity so that a panelist can understand who you are, what you do, why you do it, how you do it, what you care about. That's what the artist statement is. There's a budget form, and this is for everybody, organizations, collaborators, artists. We've created a template in the hopes of making this easier for you. You don't have to use it. You can use something else, especially if you're an organization that uses something like QuickBooks. But we ask that if you don't know what to do with a budget, you do try and use this template, and please call us. The budget is a really critical part of the application. All parts of the application should really work together to tell a story. This is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I'm going, this is why this project is really critical for me at this time. Here's how I think I'm going to pay for it, here are the details. There will be some review criteria where panelists are looking at feasibility, and being able to put a budget together that makes any sense helps us to know that we're taking a risk on you that is fair and reasonable, that you can probably get this thing off the ground. There's a work sample that we're asking for, and here it's really 5 minutes of a video or sound file of some kind. You can use any format, you can upload any kind of file. The file size limitation is huge. You can also upload URLs, YouTube, Vimeo, these sorts of things. I highly recommend, if you're going to use one of those sites, that you password protect your work, your intellectual property. Share that password with us in the instructions so that we can actually access it. But know that we're really open as to what this is. Some tips here. Number one, the quality of the work is more important than the quality of the sample itself. The work's relevance to the proposed project is also important. So if you have footage that you've shot on your iPhone during a recent rehearsal, that's very helpful. You might want to share a minute and a half or 2 minutes of something that you've recently produced fully, that's completed and a full show, as well as some footage of this current work for us to be able to understand what it is and get a visual or audio representation of that. So keep those things in mind. And the other thing I would stray away from is really the montage thing. So if you're putting together a whole bunch of clips where the panelists can't really get a sense of what it is that you do, it's less good. So you can submit several different things, especially if you're a multidisciplinary artist that's working in a bunch of different mediums, or you are working within a singular discipline but do a whole bunch of different stuff. It might be important for you to show a whole bunch of different things, but I would say pick no more than 2 or 3 and really give a solid chunk of time for panelists to get a sense for this stuff. If you are a playwright writing a new play and you want to apply, that's cool. You can submit up to 10 pages of a manuscript, and if you have any video of previous work that has come to fruition and seen the stage, we would love to see that as well. I think that might be all I have to talk about. Let me just make sure. I'm looking through my notes. Yeah, we're really excited about you applying. The applications are due in a few weeks. If you have questions, we're very open to hearing from you. Amy Scorziello and myself, Allyson Esposito, please reach out. No question is dumb. This is the first time we're all doing this and we're learning. Thank you.
Allyson, thanks so much for joining us for a Facebook Live chat. Again, folks, this video will be available later, the full recording, and feel free to share it with your friends. Have a nice day.